G'day, Lucas Mycroft here, CEO and co-founder of Tribute. I've got an amazing Jamie with me today. G'day, mate.
Hey Lucas, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be an epic conversation. Before we get started, I'm actually keen to dive into a bit of your journey, and obviously I want to share a bit of my experience as well, and why customer experience in your world is so, I guess, important to you in the MSP that you've previously run or maybe still are running. I'm keen to hear a bit of your background, to be honest, man, and then tell us about the customer service side of it before we jump straight into it.
I'll try and be as succinct as possible because my MSP experience is 21 years. So we didn't get to celebrate our 20th, I have to say, because of COVID. So hopefully we can do our 21st/22nd to celebrate that. But it's been an amazing journey building an MSP. So we have, just like many of you watching, have been battling away to grow our MSP for that period of time. We're pleased to say now I've managed to get it up to basically 50 staff now, and we manage about 5,000 desktops and laptops. So that business is called eNerds, and really the purpose of my MSP, when you have to work out like what's your purpose, what's your vision. The purpose was always to innovate and improve the way IT services are provided to SMB. And so what that meant is that we're always looking, because we sort of had that as part of the DNA, we were looking at ways in which we can innovate the way that we were doing things. And one of those areas was absolutely customer experience. The story goes that I was sitting there with a quote for 2,000 mouse pads in 2009-ish, thinking to myself, seriously, like mouse pads? I mean, does anyone use them? Aren't they just going to get thrown out or worn out? Or, what am I going to do here? We fundamentally was trying to figure out, how do we have eNerds details on all the devices we manage, but ensure that it's there. And we were trying to also solve a productivity problem of not getting the correct ticket information the first time. And so that's what led us to build our technology internally that later became Envirosoft. So we basically built desktop and mobile apps and client portals that was kind of like, in the early days, to be honest, like a digital mousepad. So instead of giving them a mousepad, give them a digital one, and it'll never get old and tired, and the colors look nice all the time. And it kind of went from there, and it was very successful. And we decided to commercialize that tech, like most MSPs do, and into a different entity called Envirosoft, and launched it in late 2017. So it's been a great journey, but certainly customer experience for me is one of the tenets of being able to grow your MSP. And there's lots of things that go into customer experience. It's not just the technology you use, of course, but if you just think about when you're trying to sign up a new client and you are presenting your services, and if you can't present something that is at least different or appears to be more innovative than the person that they're seeing next to you, then of course that's going to be not in your favor. So if you can do that, it looks really good. And so what we found was that doing all of that, it was sort of an accidental benefit. I have to say, I wasn't smart enough at the time initially of building it. I realized as we were building it, this could be good to differentiate. And I thought it would be good. And history says everything. It absolutely was. And interestingly, our MSP converts at about 47% of the leads we get, which is pretty good. Most are down at sort of 20 to 30%. So that's a little bit about the story, but it's been a long time, and I've been living and breathing the MSP space pretty much since I was 22.
Absolutely love that. I can totally relate to a lot of those conversations. I love the mousepad story. That's something I want to see that on your website. Actually, read about our mousepad story, because I think it was really cool.
Yeah.
Cool way to go. Well, I was going to buy 2,000 mousepads, and went, actually, how can we deliver a mousepad a different way? And that's how all innovation starts. So that's absolutely awesome. I'll give you a bit of background on our journey, and honestly, very similar to what Jamie just said. Been in the MSP space for over 17 years, in multiple different MSPs, owned, operated, and still running MSPs. And I guess we were always coming from that innovation mindset, but really heavily focused these days around the service delivery. And two core aspects that really that we just couldn't solve was around that. How do we deliver amazing customer service day in, day out? And one thing that we always came up against every single day was around our techs and around how techs love to solve problems, but their customer service, they're a bit socially awkward at times. They're not so much, love to be out there, have those, I guess, build those relationships and have those conversations with clients on a daily basis. It's just not who they are. They love sitting behind the computer screen and tapping away and solving problems. And for years, man, for absolute years, I tried to fight against it. Try to push these guys in the direction that I wanted to go. I wanted the MSPs to go in the direction. And I think finally we just gave in and said, you know what, we can't solve it from a people perspective. Let's start building some tech to try and solve it, because changing people's personalities and mindset and how they approach the customer experience and using innovation to do so just isn't them. So I guess that's a bit of our journey and how I want to come up with a mousepad story, because I love that story.
Yeah.
The two key areas that we're really focusing on, and I guess the tribute stack of a product that we're really trying to achieve, and I say trying to because this is a evolution over the next 3 to 5 years, is that exact problem, is service delivery. So if I take a level 1 engineer, they love solving problems, but they get sick of doing mundane level 1 tasks every single day, and that makes up 70% of the help desk these days. And so doing those day in, day out mundane tasks, it just isn't what they want to do forever. It's really difficult for the MSP, especially in COVID now, recruiting new techs and replacing those level 1s. It's just super difficult. They want to upskill, do level 2, level 3. And so you got this revolving door of techs that don't want to do level 1 anymore. And then how do you solve that customer service side? So I think this is a great starting point, a great topic for us to dive into, and because we're both trying to solve the service delivery and the customer experience problem at the same time. So hence the reason we've jumped on this call together, because I think we've got some amazing insights into the industry.
Absolutely.
Did you want to add any points to that before I get into it?
No. Look, my point is, well done on doing what you're doing. It's you can follow the herd and just keep plodding along, or you can try and change the game and do a different style of how you produce service delivery and all those sort of things. And certainly automation around solving problems at that level 1 mark as you scale, like that's huge. So keep doing it.
Yeah, I actually haven't asked you this question before. You can relate in your MSP when you got 50 staff. The massive part of the help desk is level 1 task. What's
We
your
get hammered.
gut feeling?
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
it's pretty brutal. Like and it never stops coming in. I mean, if you have staff that are away or sick or whatever, like you've really got to have N+1, N+2 in terms of your resourcing. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. So we get over 100 tickets a day, like every day, and you got to get through it all. So it doesn't get spoken about in that sense. A lot of MSPs are a wee bit smaller, so they don't probably get that many tickets a day. But still, if you've got less people, even the less number of tickets still keeps adding up, and you can kind of get behind, and that really impacts on customer experience if you're too slow. So it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't get spoken about enough. It's all about solving the tickets. It's not about, well, there's all these level 1 tickets in. Are our engineers actually happy? Is that even a conversation? Like, actually, this is not even a topic of discussion today, but I think it's a really good important thing. Is do we talk to our techs enough, especially from a mental health perspective? Are they happy in what they're doing? Are they happy with solving these problems on a daily basis? The customer experience conversation, where your tech comes into play. What is that alleviated from their daily basis, and is that making them, more happier humans?
Well, hopefully, because our little bit in the world at one. I mean, we're solving quite a few problems, but certainly the first one is just getting that perfect ticket each time. So getting the right information. If you're going to get a ticket, it may as well have the right information in it, rather than you having to go play ping pong back and forth trying to get that correct data. So that's just a waste of admin. That's admin. And who
Mm-hmm.
you're an engineer. Why would you need to be like wasting time on admin, and there's a lot of admin. Even just triaging a ticket, like, oh, what ticket type and what subtype every single time it comes in. That's just crazy. So, little things like that I think we're both sort of tackling in different ways. But yeah, it's a fascinating area, and yeah, keen to get stuck into some of these questions.
Yeah. And I feel like we're only just getting started, right? Let's fast forward 3 to 5 years from now, what the innovation will look like in the space is going to be.
Oh, it's going to be huge. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty. So first topic of the day, and the question around innovation, since it's a great segue from what we were just discussing. So innovation for MSPs. Do MSPs want to innovate? Do they want to change? How do we see the industry as a whole? I say 3 to 5 years. I'm happy for you to go longer or shorter if you want, Jamie. I think 3 to 5 years is a good, in my opinion, good time frame to go. Well, look how far we've come in the last 10 years from tech all around the world, and how that's really pushed industries, especially around COVID. So yeah, I'd love to dive into this, man. Love your experience or your thought process around all things innovation in the MSP space.
Absolutely. Look, I guess the question of do MSPs want to change? Well, largely speaking, that the answer would have to be yes. Of course, I think most MSPs want to improve and change and grow and all that sort of stuff. But what my observation has been, now speaking to hundreds of MSPs around the world, is that that if you didn't know, 80% of MSPs pretty much turn over $3 million and below, and 60% are $1 million and below. That's basically an industry of a lot of awesome but small businesses, right? And what's the thing that most small businesses struggle with? Time. They don't have time to do anything, let alone try and be innovative and try and focus on the on it stuff. So they're traditionally going to be working in the business more than on the business. And I was certainly there when I was growing mine, and you sort of have to get to a certain point in size, but also mindset, I have to say, to work on it. So in terms of innovation and customer experience, what my observation has been is that it's not well, innovation specifically, it's not front of mind regularly. It's like a spurts of like, oh, we should do something with our RMM tool and try and automate that, and then there's a fire over there, or a new server you need to go and set up, or a project you have to execute, and then that mind of like that sort of concept of doing some innovative stuff around your RMM suddenly gets drawn out to a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then they haven't done anything. And I know that because my guys were always saying that with the RMM tool we use. And, it took years for them to actually just get on with it and actually do some stuff about it. So I think over the next 3 to 5 years, whether MSPs like it or not, because of vendors like us, because of people trying to push the boundaries, and because of challenges I guess people challenging the traditional model. So it's probably poignant to bring up electric.ai or electric.io, whatever they're called. I think it's AI, is those guys have raised well over $100 million now, or more, like $200 million, whatever it is. And, most people would think, well, they're clearly a tech business. Well, they're not. They're just an MSP. They've just got a sprinkling of tech inside. They're never going to commercialize it, or maybe they will, but I don't think so. They are pretty much trying to build a modern MSP focused on innovation. And so these are the things, it's the vendors like us, it's people like that are going to challenge the status quo, that are going to make these MSPs have a wee think about what they're doing. Because, Electric's go to market is pretty much, the whole industry does it the old way. We do it the new way. You've got to get on this bandwagon. It's brilliant. Like, who wouldn't want to lap that up? If you're a new customer looking to sign up a new IT partner, and the partner's talking like that, and then the other option that they're looking at is like, I use mouse pads and stickers, and if you want to contact us, it's just email and phone. Like, that's ridiculous. So the funny thing is that the consumer world is going to push innovation, like it always has, and then it's B2B SaaS businesses and these sort of things that pick up on it over time. I mean, a great example is Dropbox and Office 365, OneDrive, SharePoint, where Dropbox always had the ability to only sync the data that you needed, so it didn't clog up the space on your thing. And then eventually Office 365 got there, but they were a bit slow to do it. So, I think innovation's coming, and MSPs are going to have to just find the time to make sure that they do implement some of these amazing things that are being produced, because it makes a difference. It genuinely makes a difference in terms of growth, sales, conversion, happier customers, retention, all that sort of stuff.
Happier text. Yeah. I think you make a really good point there, and I agree with everything you're saying. I won't repeat what you said, but the consumer, the end user, the business, the customer, they're the ones that are pushing to want more. I've still got my sales hat on in our Crofty MSP here in Brisbane. I'm still talking to customers and using it as really good R&D and feedback on how we build that platform within Tribute. And I ask the customer directly, every time we go to a meeting, what do you want from a tech support company? What do you want from an MSP? Well, firstly, they all go, what's an MSP? They've got no idea what an MSP is. They're like, no, we just need tech support. And secondly, it's like, cool, what do you want from a tech support company? They're like, well, we know that our business has been running like this, Excel spreadsheets, using these apps in our business for the last 10, 15, 20 years. We know there must be a better way. We want help to figure out a better way. Now, MSPs offer that consulting service. Yeah, there are a handful around the world that really can dive into that process improvement and consulting and really figure that out. But most MSPs don't sell that. They sell, we'll do an IT audit for you. It's always straight to forward. We'll do an IT audit. I understand what's in your business, and then we'll put a plan forward on how we can make you a bit more innovative. But the innovation from what MSPs, and I can be completely wrong here, but I've spoken to 5,000 plus MSPs around the world now, is majority, and 80 or 90% is Office 365. Let's migrate you to the cloud, get you into the cloud. Once you're in the cloud, you're now in the new era of innovation in the tech space. That's only one aspect. In my honest opinion, that's a starting point. That's like the foundation. Let's just get the foundation right when it comes to the business. And this is I'm talking about as the end user, the organization that you're supporting. Let's get the foundation right. Then what are the next steps? And they want to be pushed. They want their tech company and their MSP and their IT support company to really push the boundaries. They want to cool. I want you to help me take my business from where I am now to where I want to get to. Now, if that's what the consumer wants, and I'd love to get your 2 cents on it, but if that's what I'm hearing, if that's what the consumer wants, it's what the business wants. If we fast forward 3 to 5 years from now, where does that leave MSPs? If they're going to be still pushing boxes, doing what they've been supporting for a long time, not really changing the way they think or what they go to market with, where does that leave them in the market?
Behind. And inevitably, it's just anemic growth is the difference. So, I mean, the upside of being an MSP is that it is a relationship business, and therefore people work with people and churn is low and these sorts of things. But I think, and so, even talking about the electric example, I know in the community, a lot of MSPs go, no, that doesn't affect me. Well, it may not affect you from a churn perspective, fair call, but it will from a growth perspective, because when it comes to actually winning new business, then you'll struggle. And the irony of all of this is that the number one complaint of most MSPs that they want to focus on is sales and growth. But the number one thing they actually focus on is just doing technical support and working in the business. So they won't sort of implement the innovative sales methodology or innovative tools to deliver excellence around customer experience and those innovations, etc. So, and engineer productivity, etc. So it's, yeah, look, I agree with what you're saying, and it's I think the more it is spoken about, and the more that there's oxygen over and above what PSA and RMM tool you use, I think the better in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. It's there's a hot topic of conversation in all the forums that I'm in, Slack groups, Tech Tribe online forums around the world, Facebook groups, that the electric AI conversation is definitely a hot topic right now. There's like electric AI conversation, cybersecurity, how do I improve my MSP, and how do I get more sales? That's typically what I'm seeing in all these groups. The electric AI one is quite interesting, where it's like, one, they're just giving us a bad name in the industry. They shouldn't exist. That's one part of it. The other comments I've been seeing is, we did lose a customer, Electric AI. They went with them for 3 months. They didn't like the service they offered, so they came back to us. So we're totally fine. We don't have to worry about it. I'm like, oh my God, they're just getting their shit together, guys. They've just
Yeah.
raised $150 million. They've just closed Series C. They've just hired 400 techs and engineers. They're already over $20 million in annual recurring revenue. Annual recurring revenue. This is a key sticking point, right? Most
They've actually hit
MSPs.
40. They've hit 40.
Oh, 40? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. There you go. That's jumped really quickly. And that's annual recurring revenue. Now, think about this, right? Most MSPs, you say, let's call it the 60% are under $1 million a year. Do you think that's $1 million in recurring revenue? No. There's still a big portion of MSPs that do not break even every single month. They have to bring projects in the door and close those sales to just break even or then somewhat make a profit.
Correct.
These guys are already doing, as you said, $40 million in recurring revenue. Think of that as a base before you even add projects on top of that. It's just absolutely insane. So yeah, okay, they're shitting on a lot of people right now in the industry. They're pissing off a lot of people. But fast forward 3 to 5 years, if the MSP industry doesn't step forward and try to compete with these guys, there's going to be a lot of heads turning, I believe.
Well, they'll just get bigger, and then their marketing engine will get better, and it's what happened with Office 365 and Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft did a pretty damn good job of promoting their tool set. Like, it was everywhere, and when that starts happening, as you alluded to earlier, it is the customer that then starts driving that conversation, which is a shame. Because then they'll start asking you, going, "Oh, I saw this over here, pretty innovative. Do you guys do that?" And then you're scrambling because you hadn't thought about it. So, do you want to be a laggard, or do you want to sort of be a bit more proactive in terms of your own destiny? And it's a fascinating debate. And I guess there are a lot of innovative MSPs out there. There are a lot, but it's always statistically a lower percentage. Like, most are just battling away doing their thing, which is admirable and it's awesome, and that's totally cool too. But I think driving some innovation and focusing on customer experience it's just got to change. Because here's the thing around customer experience, and I've been saying this when I even didn't know what I was doing, right? Trying to run an MSP like 15 years ago, I knew this basic fact. I said to every technical person that we sign up, I said, we are not a technology company. We are a customer service business that happens to be in technology. So if we're a customer service business, largely speaking, the only way we lose clients is through poor customer experience. And so what that means is you're saying to a client, yep, I'll get that done. And you don't. Yes, I'll get back to you with that quote. And you don't on time. And you just continually do things like that. Those are the things where you lose clients over, because they lose confidence. They lose confidence because you don't come to them, as you were alluding to before, with innovative ways that they could potentially do stuff, for their business. And then they go, I feel like I'm just telling the IT provider what to be doing, because they're basically just sort of got this break fix of set up some basic stuff mindset. And so these it's really important to sort of talk about all this sort of stuff more, and get oxygen away from some of the other topics, which really centers around some of those other things. And I know you had a question around cybersecurity as well. Tell me about that one.
Well, so this is off the back of what I've been seeing in all these threads around the world. So I'm not sure where you're living and breathing, but this is kind of like my market research. I do some posts every now and then. I watch what people comment on and see where the conversation leads to, just to get some insights. Because what we've found in the last 18 months, when we launched and went to market with our product, speaking to tech guys is not the easiest thing to do. Getting feedback from tech guys is not easy. We've got MSPs using our platform that have signed up, used it, are they still using it, or evaluated it from 19 different countries. And we thought, great, from these 19 different countries, surely we'll get some really good insights. They're tech guys. They just want to get the tool. Does it solve a problem in their business? They do. We reached out to them, we've phoned them, we've communicated with, we've emailed them, we've sent them videos, we've tried everything. No, we're too busy. Like what you said originally, we don't have time. And so using these forums has been really interesting to go, well, can we spark some debate around these topics? And it's the themes that I'm seeing is cybersecurity, but not really cybersecurity in the sense of, do we need to be able to build a cyber team in our MSP and offer that cybersecurity to our customer? Because as you said, most MSPs are under 1 mil. They've probably got 10 techs or less, and that's about it. You can't afford to build a cyber team. I met with a vendor, a larger corporate in the city. They just hired 5 level 1 cyber guys. 5 level 1 cyber guys. Guess what? The lowest wages they pay for a cyber guy these days, level 1.
Well, sounds like it'd be over 100 grand.
120K minimum for a level 1. And I said, what does level 1 do? Check alerts and spam and make sure the filters are working. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a level 1. I'm like, straight out of university, level 1. I'm like, wow. So MSP can't afford 120K plus and build, you probably need 3 to 5 of them. So that's not the topic is around building a cyber team inside your MSP, but it's reselling products and how do you make more revenue from offering these to your customer. That's where the topic of conversation goes towards is, what can I sell? What can I offer the customer? And how can I make more money?
Yeah, look,
Do you
I
have any
think
thoughts around that?
yeah, I do. And it's interesting because let's be honest, I've been doing this for 21 years. That's always been a topic. Like, we've always had to focus on security. Like, come on, like, it's always been there. However, in saying that, there are vastly more breaches. There are, millions of more threats out there. You see it all the time. You see the vendors getting breached, etc. So we can't deny that the effort is being put in to cause havoc out there. So it is a topic of conversation. But, our responsibility as MSPs has never changed. Like, it should have always been around security. I think what's driven the dialogue is a lot of vendor. It is the fact that there's breaches. It's the media associated to that. And then it's the vendors pushing really hard on their solutions. And and then you even see like sales coaching and all this sort of thing, trying to use security, which is a fair enough strategy, as an arrowhead, like a way to get into a client and have a chat and maybe land and expand and that type of thing. So it's that's where it's coming from. But as an MSP owner, I sit back and I look at our business model and I look at what the most profitable line item is. And I've said this millions of times before, but I'll say it as millions of times more because it's so important, is that that's not how you build an MSP that's profitable. How you build an MSP that's profitable is signing up new clients. And that the support fee that you charge per month to manage them is the most profitable annuity line item you can, because it's fundamentally charging for time. So of course it is the most profitable, but everything else you sell is like at 10, 20, 30 points margin. So how do you, if your revenues, think about it, if your revenue is $1 million and you're selling $1 million worth of stuff, that's only 100 grand, 200 grand margin. It's like a couple of staff. And even then that's a bit of a struggle. You got all these other costs. So it's not very profitable if you build your MSP that way. So whilst the dialogue's there, I think you absolutely need to have a security mindset. You need to deal with that in the way that you present services at some point in time. But the philosophy of growth shouldn't be centered just on security. There's millions of other things clients need as well. Collaboration, for one thing, and, work from home requirements, all these other things. What's their internet look like to handle all these SaaS products? Do they have redundant internet connections? What's the firewall doing? I mean, there's lots of things there. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic, and that's an example of something that gets spoken about a lot because technical people love to talk about technical things and the way in which they can solve them. What I actually think needs to happen is there's got to be more ownership from those MSP owners to drive where they want their business to go. So one of the observations I've seen is that a lot of MSP owners with new tech and innovation, because we're having those conversations with MSPs, both of us, is they'll say, this sounds interesting. Let me defer to the team and get their opinion. Now, let's use customer experience as an example. I don't think I've really met any engineer in 21 years that would hand on heart say, I'm really passionate about customer experience. So if you as the owner is trying to be innovative and trying to be forward thinking, and customer experience, for example, is one of those things, and then you go and present customer experience to try and see whether they like it or not to someone that doesn't give a shit about customer experience, what do you think the answer is going to be? All right. So I do think there's got to be
absolutely love that.
more leadership. Yeah, like what? Of course they're going to say no. So it's pointless telling them. or you have to make my point. What I'm trying to make here is that CEOs, it's not a collaboration of leadership. It's a freaking semi-dictatorship. You're running a company. Make decisions and actually use your tact and diplomacy, your influencing skills to get people on the same page. I'm not denying you have to get everyone rowing in the same direction, but it's not that they make the decision and it's this team decision. Like, you're the leader, make a decision, then get everyone else on board. And I do see a lot of, and it's admirable. It's nice that they want to engage everybody in it, but that basically means you don't make a decision quickly. It's always too slow because you're trying to get everyone to say yes. And around innovation, around customer experience, as you said before, like, engineers just would rather sit in the room and smash out stuff. And some of them love going and seeing clients, but it's not always the rule. So if you want to improve customer experience or put innovative tools in, I mean, how many times do you say to an engineer, hey, can we do this? It could be just anything, about anything, a server or whatever. And their first answer is no. And then 5 minutes later, they come back going, I figured it out. And you're like, then why did you say no in the first instance? So leadership of the CEO to just drive the conversation and convince those around them to do stuff is, I just think it's so important. That's what's going to drive the industry forward.
By the way, that's text in all aspects. You would see this with your devs as well. Like the devs that have that mindset, you're like, cool, this is what we want to do. This is the prototype we want to build. It's not possible. You can't do it. You would never be able to achieve it. And a day later, they built it. It's like, seriously? I absolutely get it. And that all goes like from a sales perspective all the way through to delivery and customer service, right? You always go and tell something like, this is awesome, the customer really wants it, you take it back to your team, like, cool, this is what we're going to deliver, and the first thing they go is, we can't deliver that, it's not possible to deliver that. And then they talk about themselves, they figure it out, they go, oh yeah, we can deliver that, oh yeah, it would be good for the customer, oh my god. It's just, and this is why I guess why we're building our platform, probably similar to yourself now, is you can't change people's mindset and their personalities. It's who they are. They're tech guys. They love tech and solving problems. So you need to be a bit more forceful. And we've found that the businesses that we've won, the MSPs that are using our software all around the world now, they it's an ownership perspective. It's like the owner falls in love with it. They then pass it to their service delivery manager. Delivery manager falls in love with it because we're solving service delivery aspects here. And that's amazing and that's great. They're on board. But then getting their techs on board, they literally every single one has and I've not found a MSP that hasn't said this yet, is they don't have time. They're too busy. They don't have time. They can't use your software. They don't have time. Well, how about I save you hours a day using our AI? They don't have time. It's like it absolutely blows your mind. So there definitely needs to be a leadership and an ownership there around how do we push forward. And I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head previously around electric AI. There'll be a point in the coming years where this conversation we're having now will be reality. It would have sunk in. Shit, we're losing customers. They're moving away. They're going to electric AI or the innovative MSP down the road. We better change. And that's honestly, that's just too late though. That's unfortunately too late.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, look, of course it's going to change. I mean, just statistically, the number one method, like there's a great report I found from Fresh Service around the channels in which people log support requests and the percentage of them. And 70% of all tickets coming through Fresh Service is still email. I mean, when there's an app for everything, it doesn't make any sense because ultimately email never gives you the correct information. So there's some basic things that we can do to just really go to the next level. And bearing in mind the consumer experience of the people that we're supporting, it can't stay that way forever. It just literally can't because, you and I, well, I'm probably a bit older than you, but we're probably still representative of the younger side of our industry. Like there's a lot of older business owners. And if you think about I'm 44 and that's not that young. I used to think I was young. Now I'm clearly not. But the people that we're supporting in that 20 to sort of 35 age bracket, they're going to get older. And then there's got this next sort of generation. What do they call it? Like, kids born on the internet or just with a bloody screen in their face. Like, what do you think their expectation's going to be of IT support? You know, so, and that's rapidly changing. So, you know, we're seeing a lot with our live chat technology where customers, not the MSP, are dragging the MSP along with the experience they want. Oh, my customer said they'd prefer to sort of live chat. Like, it's because half their team's probably 25 years old and they don't want to speak to anybody. They're just used to chatting to their mates, even if their mate's standing right next to them. Like, you know, so these things are already happening. We're seeing it, and I agree with you. I think it'll accelerate, and the good news for these MSPs, we're there when they're ready with the new tech. But what's the damage in the meantime?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really good segue to the automation topic. And I think you already hit the nail on the head. So we've already started off the topic without even realizing what do consumers and customers want. And you bring in the 20-ish year old staff into your organization, not the MSP. I'm talking about the end user, the customer. They don't want, you know, I want to send an email. I remember this clearly. So I was doing a gig for a 100-plus-year-old company. They've got 600 staff around the country, and they hired a bunch of these younger generation, and we were there helping them get Outlook set up and get this says I think Teams had just come in and like started using a bit of Teams, they started using Outlook, and they're like, "What's Outlook? What's email? I've never sent an email in my life." And you're like,
wow, yeah,
just blows your mind.
Yeah,
That email doesn't exist. DM, exactly what you said. DM is what it's all about for this younger generation. And if you're an MSP owner and you're not thinking, what do I want to, I guess there's two conversations here. I've been running my MSP for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Do I want to keep running my MSP for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? If the answer is yes, and you don't want to sell and you don't want to get out of the industry, then you need to change because you're about to start supporting 20-year-olds. And what do 20-year-olds want? They want automation. They want better customer experience. They want better customer service. They want innovation. That's not what we're offering today.
I mean, the technology in the consumer world, we'd all agree, anyone watching this, that it's friggin' awesome. Like, oh my God, the stuff that you can do with all the apps out there and everything else, like it's crazy. And that's what they're comparing your service experience with. Because they will literally sit in the office going, how do I speak to IT? It's like, you got to find a sticker or like there's something over there somewhere, I think. I mean, that's just crazy. Like, they'll be like, but isn't there like an app or something or like a portal or like, can I do it through Teams? Like, you know, so it absolutely will change. And I think there is both of our platforms sort of focus on, they focus on different angles of it, but a large part of it is the ticketing, and I just don't see a lot of discussion around ticketing automation. And like, I'll give you an example. And we're lucky enough to be able to do this because we built our own ticketing system crazily. But you know, because of our app, for example, so we're sort of the first bit, and then you're kind of like then getting it solved, so it just nobody has to do anything. So like combined, it's pretty amazing, to be fair. But if you get the ticket with the right information in the first place, we all know that a ticketing system fundamentally is categorized by ticket types. So if you get an email ticket, you cannot do automation around and workflow rules around the ticket because you're having to triage it and categorize it. Humans like have to do that. That's crazy. So if a ticket can come in categorized with the correct information, now you're in a position of power to push it to wherever it needs to go. And so our MSP did this 10 years ago, mind you. We built a ticketing system that auto allocates and load balance tickets to teams. So effectively, we've categorized all our tickets level 1, 2, 3, 4. When they come in, because they're coming in largely on the app, we know what type of ticket it is. You know, it's not 100% accurate, but because if the user may select something that's incorrect, but most of the time they do it correctly, and then it gets routed to the level 2 team. And let's say there's 5 people in level 2. They go, well, those 4 have 20 tickets each, and this person's only got 10. We'll just keep giving the 10 person one until they're even, and then it just distributes it that way. And that's even if you've only got 1 or 2 staff in your MSP, being able to just be more efficient around ticketing and put it in the right person's bucket and just, hoon through them that way rather than all this fuss, is so much better. And it doesn't get spoken about it enough. Like ticketing is like the number one area of what we do every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we do every day. So either getting the right information the first time, or what you're doing largely, which is to say, well, I'll actually even solve those tickets through automation and AI. I mean, it's just that is the future, and that's the experience that these young people want. And to be fair, I think any business owner would want. Like my analogy of any client, and I say this to people when they're really trying to get their head around what an MSP is supposed to do. I'm like, you just have to be fast and accurate.
Mm-hmm.
That's generally with a ticket. Like you can't be inaccurate and fast. That's not going to work. So that kind of translates to happy customer, and through automation of ticketing, you can do a lot there. So
What
what do
does
you
the
think?
customer want? They want their problem solved. Like they don't care how you solve it. They don't care what you have to do behind the scenes to solve that problem. They just want it solved. They just want that. Actually, do customers even want to talk to their IT company? Maybe for innovation conversations and process improvement. Do they want to talk to an IT company to get their
Not
problem
for
solved? Probably
support.
not.
Not
No.
generally. Look,
They,
yeah, I hear a lot of MSPs go, no, my MSP focuses on the customer, and it's all about the human touch. And I'm like, have you even asked your customer what they care about? Because what you just said is what I agree with. I don't think they give a shit. Yes, they want a nice company to deal with, but at the end of the day, if you're a lawyer and something's broken, I can't print a frigging important document, fix my printer. I'm happy. Whether it's done
yeah.
through a chat, or it's done over the phone, or it's done through bloody a cup with a string next to it, they don't give a shit. Like whatever the fastest way to get their problem solved is what they actually care
Yeah.
about. I don't think they sit there thinking to myself, well, it took a bit longer, but I love that personal touch. No, they don't. They just want the problem solved. So I think it's a flawed argument. And
Yeah.
I know it's
Agree.
flawed because, we've been scaling an MSP, and these are the things that people want. So is what it is.
How do you solve my problem the quickest so I can actually print that document? I can take that document to where I need to go to. It's simple as that. I'm actually going to do a bit of a plug here because I wasn't planning on this, but you just hit the nail on the head. So this, we literally just released what we call What's Next, and you'll see it just showed up on the screen. And anything you go through here, Jamie, if you've got anything to plug as well, I'm happy for you to do so. What's Next literally answers your exact question, what you're talking about. We've been working on, if you don't know our journey, our story, we've been working on AI now for, let's call it 18 months, nearly 2 years. And our entire goal is to solve service delivery, right? Now, and in this case, really focusing on level 1 engineering. What's next is exactly what you just spoke about around understanding what the ticket is, I guess, cleansing the data. One thing that your software does extremely well is like, can we make sure the data is amazingly perfect before it goes to the tech? Because what do tech hate? Techs hate going back to the customer and asking more questions, don't have the right information, don't have the passwords, don't have the RMM tools installed on the right devices. That's all admin. They hate that. So your software is amazing when it comes to, well, let's feed the right information to the tech in the first place. But then the next step is prioritization. So our system and the algorithms we've built within the AI go, cool, what ticket should I be working on? Firstly, classification, sub-issue, issue type, level 1, level 2. It understands all that, categorizes it all does that out of the box. It's already getting the level 1 aspect here I'm talking about, not level 2 or 3 just yet. It's already getting 92% correct every single time. So the accuracy is really high. But then the next step, the really cool thing is around prioritization. Techs go, well, I've got 20 tickets or 30 tickets in my queue. What do I work on? I typically work on the ones that are either the customer is screaming the loudest at me because I haven't got back to them already. They're literally phoning me. They're phoning my boss. They're emailing my boss. They're complaining that I haven't got back to them. So that's the one I'm working on first. Or I've actually had a bit of free time. What's the ticket I can solve the quickest? And why do I want to solve that quickest? Because it gives me an endorphin hit. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good that I've just been able to achieve something, right? That's why we're techs in the first place. We love to solve problems. So they're really the only two ones that we're focusing on. The great thing about the tech that we've built is that it categorizes, let's say you've got all 20 tickets, and tells you the top 2 tickets you should be working on only, based on all the algorithms that we've learnt over the last 18 months within the 300,000 tickets that we've now processed. And so it goes, cool, ignore all the customers screaming loud, because you know what the customer's like, man. Every customer's problem is the most important. Even if it's one person with one problem in one department that actually there is no major deadlines, it doesn't have any problems, it doesn't affect anyone else in the whole company, they're still screaming the loudest. So take all that out of it and go, well, no, these are the top 2 tickets you should be focused on right now. So it removes that customer. I guess this is what we're hearing from the industry anyway, because we're only recently released this from the techs that are using the platform now. They're like, great, I don't have to worry about customers screaming because I run the command and it tells me exactly what I should be working on. The service delivery manager is like, cool, I don't have to whip you every single day and go, I'm whipping you to go, you should be focusing on this ticket because you just run the command, it does it for you. So I love that segue, man. Appreciate that.
Oh, no, I love it because, in fact, we even, well, I guess it's almost 12 years ago now, 11 years ago, I already realized that the system should drive the behavior, not the human, when you've got lots of tasks. And so we do that not as sophisticated with AI, with this ticketing system that we built, so that they only see their tickets. That's all they see. They never actually see the list because everything gets allocated, even if it's like, obviously we still take phone calls. So either it's a human off the phone call, which we can't avoid, you have to do phone, but 50 to 60% of the tickets come through the app. So they're just getting this work given to them. There's no cherry picking, none of that sort of stuff. So we've been able to sort of do it in a slightly different way, but you can't buy what we do, but you can buy what Lucas is doing. And that's how it should be. Like, it really does take a lot of stress out of the engineers, stops cherry picking. It ensures that, the right focus thing is focused on at any point in time. I totally agree with you. I guess the thing for me to kind of plug is if you go to envirosoft.com/teams, we've basically put our app and client portal as a button inside Teams, so that the user can just get stuck in and click that button. So it's just about to be released. We're talking about it now, and it's imminent, coming into the App Store. So really just gives you this wonderful opportunity to put your button inside Teams, and thanks, mate, and just deliver that great experience for where your customers are at. And the cool thing about that technology is that whilst it doesn't have all the smarts that our agent does in terms of live chat, identity security, push notifications, and those sorts of things, the killer thing here is that it literally takes 30 to 60 minutes to set up. So you're not having to deploy anything. You're basically just doing a little bit of config in a few minutes, and then just pinning the app at each client to their Teams application. So yeah, lots of great things coming, and but that's
so this is more
all.
customer. I'd like to dive into a quick question around this. So this is more customer facing. So you
Yes,
you can push out your portal into the customer's Teams environment.
Correct.
And then they'll be able to see everything that I guess the tech or the MSP would normally see inside your portal that you're providing from a customer experience perspective.
Correct. So it's the same
version.
experience, same view. Like, if you want to show them links to wherever you want to go, they can see their tickets, they can see their Office 365 licensing, they can see service catalogs and knowledge bases and Microsoft training and all that sort of stuff. And of course, log a ticket and so on and so forth. So we're sort of,
perfect.
that's the customer experience bit. And then, of course, where your stuff on the automation side really kicks in after that to just, yeah. I mean, I completely agree with
you. It's a win-win.
It's absolutely a win-win. Yeah.
I'm keen to I know we're talking about automation there. This conversation going a bit too long, but I love this topic because it's what's not spoken about in any conversation, any forum I'm seeing around the world. Automation is the automation is scripting. PowerShell scripts is what I see. RMM tools, but no one has time to get these set up or put the time and effort into it, right? I met an MSP 6-7 years ago. They were getting to about 30-35 staff. And I said, your next key hire, who would it be? And then they hired them and they paid 140K for this person. They came in and they just full-time, they did RMM. That's all they did full-time, just to focus on automation. I was like, perfect. But most MSPs can't afford
Correct. That's the problem.
140K person just to do RMM full-time. But I could imagine if you did RMM full-time, and okay, it might take 3, 6, 12 months to get it right. Think about all that time saving the rest of the tech's going to have because automation's now in place.
Agreed. Yep. Look, that is the difficulty, unfortunately. Is that it's time, as I said earlier in the conversation. MSPs don't have a lot of time, don't have the ability to have those type of resources in there, and it's fair call. Like it's tricky. So they are largely reliant on whatever these vendors are doing, and so. But there's more to it. As I say, I feel like the support and the ticketing side is the day-to-day stuff. It's not so like that. It's always the focus is on the infrastructure you're managing, which is super important. Like it's kind of your main job, let's be honest. But doing day-to-day support is as well. And so I think the more we talk about it, I guess maybe is the point, the better, and we can sort of start getting people thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what backlash we get from this conversation because it's a topic that's literally just not spoken about enough.
Yeah, well, if they do, they agree or they don't agree. It's just fostering the debate. You know, like we're both speaking from MSP experience. It's not theoretical. It is what it is, and we're giving a different perspective. And you know, I think I find myself being a little bit contrarian in a lot of my views. I have to say, I think it's probably because I'm not a full-on techo, never was. That was my brother's job. And so, you know, my mindset's always around sales and marketing and customer experience. And I do actually like org structure and process procedure, stuff like that. But I've never really got swept up into the actual fixing of things because I don't know how. Now that's lucky. It's lucky because I can't do it. It leaves more mind share for me to think about some of these other things. So I do sympathize with where most MSPs are in that sense. It's so easy when you're technical to just get sucked into the day-to-day and go out and do that. But at some point, you gotta fire up. And if there's some easy to implement solutions, such as what we've got, both of us have got, is what I mean, then you've got to have a look at it.
It's a great segue to one of the last topics we're going to talk about today, which is around business in general without innovation or with innovation. So we've talked heavily about MSPs and what MSPs should be focusing on, and around innovation and customer experience. We briefly touched on earlier around the business itself and the customer, the consumer, the end user. Now, if I love the point you just made then, Jamie, around if I put my hat on back on when I was a tech. So just so you know, I was a tech. I was the guy that was originally in the workshop, physically building computers back in the day before vendors now do it for you, distributors do it for you. So physically building computers that I was literally on site. So we had no RMM tools or remote access or internet connection wasn't good enough to do even use TeamViewer back then. Physically on site, traveling around. I used to drive 1,000 Ks a week, every single customer, and physically solve their problems.
Wow.
And that's just what we did, right? At one stage we had 19 guys out on the road driving around every single day solving problems. You'd remember this back in the day.
Yeah, that's how it was. Yep. There's no remote. There's no help desk.
No, it wasn't even really a topic of conversation. It was like just had started about like Indian, Philippines help desk. They're getting them to do back end stuff. That just started to come in. But the key conversation is around the innovation for business. What I loved about doing that role at such a young age is I learnt what businesses want, and that's why we end up developing Crofty from an innovation standpoint. It's because they didn't want, they always foundationally want their problem solved. But what they always wanted was a better way of working, a better way of doing something. They wanted their Excel spreadsheet to be able to communicate with everything else in their system and push data and pull data and have graphs. And, obviously you can do all that 365 now with Power BI and et cetera. And it's out of the box when it wasn't back then. but like those topic of conversations around what do business want from innovation. So I'm keen to dive into this now. I know both of us are now focused on the MSP front, and we're talking to MSPs on a daily basis. But I'm keen to dive into around what does business look like without innovation in the coming years, and will businesses in general survive because they have for 100 of years. They're still plugging along. They're still doing what they've always done. What does the next generation of business look like in your opinion?
Well, look, as I said before, I think the business model is changing. It's already changing. COVID's probably sped this up a wee bit in terms of, do you need an office? How do we collaborate if we're not in an office? What tools are available? I mean, Teams and Microsoft sort of getting their act together was kind of timely for them, in the way that they've been able to bring, email files and folders, chat, collaboration, all that sort of stuff into the one ecosystem. I think that really has shuttled them forward, and Slack obviously led the way prior to that, and kept them honest and gave them the blueprint of what they need to do. And so I
Well,
think there's a
honestly, they should have actually just sold to them. To be honest,
probably, yeah,
they really missed the boat then.
yeah, exactly. The the tools that are out, in terms of business needs, I think it's there's the structural first thing, because each business model is different. That's can't I don't think technology can save a bad business model in that sense, but it can support a business and it can help you achieve what you need to achieve. And so you've got the base infrastructure of how you run, and that's changing. Like, it's becoming more remote, and distributed workforces are becoming the norm. COVID, as I say, accelerated all of that. And what are the implications? What are the implications on BYOD? What are the implications on security? And I think the big one, though, is collaboration. It's like, how do we work together as teams if we never see each other that much? And I'm not sure that, I think it'll be a hybrid. The answer is always a hybrid. Like, it's never, I'm only going to work at home or I'm only going to be in the office. Like, there's always somewhere in the middle. Like, and bigger enterprises have always done that. So,
I'll question that one, man. Have you not seen the topics coming out of the States recently? They're saying work
yeah,
from
go for it.
home is the only option for your business now. Like some of these the tech giants, the big corporations, even the up and coming
It's a good
startups.
point. They are saying that. I probably, when I made that comment, I was thinking of over the last 10 years, I think of large banks and large companies that
Yeah,
have hot desking and these activity
yeah,
based working sort of stuff. That's absolutely been there. What these tech guys are saying of just working from home, well, let's see who's actually saying that, because you talked about broad business, and when you say broad business, I think
yeah,
about all the businesses Enerd supports and their
yeah.
professional services and manufacturing,
Traditional.
and like, they're not all tech businesses, and tech
That's right.
businesses have shitloads of tech people that don't want to see people anyway. Like, well,
Yeah,
they do. Don't get me wrong. Of course, you guys do. But the point is that you're actually not unhappy to just plod along and do dev work and do other stuff like that, in your home. Whereas other like, if you're in a call center or a help desk as an MSP, that's horrible. If you can't lean over and just say, dude, how do you solve that thing again? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks. You know, collaboration in that sense is interesting. So
mm,
even though those guys are saying that, I feel like that's an anomalistic to what most SMB businesses would be facing, and that is a combination of in-office, remote sort of working. So I think
agree.
just life in general and technology advancements are shaping this, for the future, and those that won't survive or struggle, will always be the ones that are a bit slow to adopt different methodologies in practice. It will have implications on churn of staff, attracting staff, and but I also always challenge anybody to look at their own business and still put on that innovation hat. It's not just about being an MSP. I love talking about it because it's, in the MSP space, because that's what we do. But it's also extremely relevant to look at your, like, I'll give you an example. Accounting firms, they love to just charge, fee based stuff, right? And you just get these whopping big fees, especially when your business gets bigger and bigger. The fees are quite high, and that's cool. But I mean, how many of them have actually gone to more of an annuity monthly model? Like, and sort of at least given it as an option, and sort of a way of doing sort of an annuity style to streamline cash flow of their own bills for their customers. that's what I'm talking about. It's like, look at your own model. Why does it have to be that way? Could it be done something different? And I know there are some accounting firms, for example, I'm aware of that do it that way, and a lot of accounting firms have done the hybrid model of offshoring. I think most professional services businesses are going to have a hybrid offshore model, especially out of Australia, maybe not US, Australia that way, because wages here are very high and there's a lot of repetitive work, and that combination between offshoring and more high level consultative work being local is quite relevant. And I think it's actually the way you can be sustainable to cope with the rising costs, etc. So yeah, look, I think innovation should be thought about all the time in whatever business you are, whether it be the way you work, whether it be the systems you use, whether it be your actual business model and how you bill and charge and do things. The ones that will, I mean, what does Darwin say? It's not the strongest or fastest that survives, it's the most adaptable. So maybe that's the key word. Innovation / adaptation.
Adaptation,
Pivoting.
and adoption. Yeah, the pivot word got used a bit too much throughout that COVID journey. I love where your mindset's going, because I think this relates to both MSPs and traditional businesses. Innovation and customer experience or customer service is not the top. It's not on top of their head, right? It's not what they're thinking every day. They're thinking about cash flow problems. They're thinking about putting out those fires and making sure the customer's happy and delivering that service or product or whatever it is. They don't think about innovation or customer experience to what we're thinking, right? And I think if you use the accounting anomaly, and sorry for the accountants out there who decided to jump on and watch this and we're not listening to us take the piss of the accounting world, delivering a monthly business option, so a monthly business model, delivering or paying your monthly bills rather than a one-off fee or a consulting fee or an end of financial year fee. To me, that's not even innovation, to be honest, Jamie. That's just what you should do because that's what your customer wants. Like, I don't think the industry itself has changed. Like, if I go, cool, we're paying BDO, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 grand a year, whatever it is. What do they do for us? I got no idea. They're doing accounting services. Like, as a customer, wouldn't I want to know, well, what value are they adding to my business? They sit behind the counter, they do all that, they're doing the stuff behind the scenes. And obviously from a legislation perspective, we have to do it, right? We absolutely have to do it. But are they adding any extra value? Have they changed the business model? And do they have that customer experience value adding? And I'm not picking on BDO here. This is all accounting firms. The top six around the world, all the way down to your mums and dads accounting services. Like, what innovation are they actually bringing to the table? So I think if we look at that, or the legal space, or the manufacturing, or whatever it might be, from a customer's perspective, so the customer of the customer, what does innovation or customer experience look to them? And I think that's what all businesses need to really dive into. It's like, let's talk to the customer, ask what they would love from us. And you know what? Sometimes, like the tech industry, they don't know what they want. So you just got to think differently, build something, change the way you're delivering it, and offer it and go, cool, that's how you stand out in the market.
Well, firstly, you've got to speak to your customer rather than making an assumption from your perspective. I think that's what often a lot of technical people will do, is go, they won't like that. It's like, no, you don't like that, but non-technical people freaking love it, right? Like, and so that's the key. And I would challenge, probably bringing it back to the MSP thing for a sec, is really just start thinking from customer backward rather than you forward. Because if you only think from your perspective of the world as it relates to the way in which you deliver services, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot a wee bit, because you are not them, and they are the ones that pay the bills, and the experience they get is super important. So, yeah, look, I think in general, the question you have to ask yourself watching this is, because you may not care, it's like, whatever, I'll just keep plodding along, and that's totally fine. But and accounting firms, law firms, whatever, like, they don't, all of our industries will be here forever and a day. And the reason why an MSP will always be here, because some people go, that industry is going to die. I'm like, no way. No way is that going to die. Why? Because non-technical people like me could not be asked dealing with all that other stuff. Get someone else that knows how to do it, and that will never change over time. And that is, in principle, what an accounting firm is they're a technical firm, law firms, technical capability that you just don't have, and you'll always outsource to it. Like, so that's never going to go away. The question you've got to ask yourself is, are you happy with where you're at in terms of growth and time? Would it be nice to kind of grow it a little bit bigger so you don't have to be in the day to day? And if the answer is, well, yeah, I wouldn't mind growing a little bit more, then you do have to start thinking about these things, because you can plod along and do what you're doing, and that's totally cool. And if you're happy, even better. It's the whole point of life is just be happy. But if you feel like you need to grow a little bit, that's the point. And every
Mm.
industry has that. And you'll have,
Yeah.
if you had a big row of all the different firms in an industry, millions, that whatever, that there'll be people just jostling up and down the list based on size or growth and all that sort of stuff. So you can kind of be like, meh, like just not moving, or you could be sort of slowly growing up the tree a little bit. And just to paint the picture, when my brother and I we were about maybe 14, 15 stuff, 16 stuff, and we were still heavily in it. Like I was obviously in it more on the sales and the account management side, like that, and actually, ordering products from distributors, all that, everything related to that was what I did. And we looked at each other and we went, fuck, this type of business isn't, like, you're not going to make squillions, are you? Like, yeah, this is a small business at that point. So we basically said to ourselves, well, look, if we're not going to be gajillionaires out of it, why don't we at least get our time back? And so we actually focused on just building a business big enough so we could take a step back. And I personally achieved that 10 years ago when I got a GM of sales. And it felt fantastic to just kind of step back and see your business as an asset rather than a job, right?
Mhm.
And so to achieve all of those sort of things, you absolutely have to be working on it, and you have to be really looking at all the different aspects of your business from an innovation, customer experience perspective. Because remember, we're customer experience businesses. That's what we are. So of course you got to focus on that at some point. And you'll find, and I do recommend reading the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. It's a pretty standard one that
Mhm.
if you haven't read, you should read it. But there's a concept in there called the flywheel effect. And interestingly, it's this concept of that every single improvement you do in a business kind of pushes the flywheel around. So think of Arnold Schwarzenegger pushing that mill around slowly, slowly, and then he starts building up speed. Conan the Barbarian, I'm talking about, and so the more you can do that, the better, to get that momentum going. The thing that thwarts people is just they'll put some stuff in, then oh shit, there's a fire over there and a fire over there, fire over there. Then they'll get back to the wheel and it's lost its momentum. That's all it is. It's
Mhm.
the focus on it. So not
No,
sure if
yeah,
that
I
answered
agree.
the question or.
No, it doesn't. Well, we're talking about like lessons learned, right? So if we dive into around in the MSP industry, we heavily focus on innovation and automation and customer experience and what's going to change in the next 3 to 5 years. That lesson learned that you like that story you just told is absolutely crucial. That needs to be told more because um, the majority of the MSPs that I talk to on a daily basis, I've been running their company for 20 years. They've got 20 staff, and it's just like stayed about that for a very long time. They're still in the day to day, every single day, doing what they're doing. I think until you make a decision, okay, if you're happy with to be a lifestyle business, totally fine. But you need to also have a family, focus on your health and fitness, ideally. Like you need to have something else in your life rather than working 24/7. And if you can either draw a line in the sand and go, you know what, myself and my brother, we're going to give ourselves 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and we're going to reduce 1 day a week, or we're going to not have to, work after hours or work on weekends, whatever that decision that you make, because then all your thinking goes towards that. So everything you
Correct.
do goes, how
Correct.
do we remove ourselves from the business? And I think that topic of conversation isn't talked about enough. We go, well, if we just win more customers, everything will be solved. If we just get more money in the door, everything will be solved. It doesn't work like that. I think you really need to
No.
put a focus around.
Yeah, it's a good point. And vision is everything. And the irony, well, I don't know if it's irony, but it could be. Need to learn the dictionary. But ultimately, as the business got bigger to support um, the fact we had a management team, and my brother and I didn't really have to be in the day to day at that point. You get bigger, and there is more money. Like you do make more money because it's the business is bigger and the numbers are a bit bigger, and it is what it is. Like it's just the law of bigger numbers. So a lot of MSPs will say, bigger is harder. I don't know, man. I reckon if you get the right management team, it's actually so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
Well, they're smarter than you. They've got more experience than you. They have the more go. They're more focused. They're more passionate. They're not trying to do 20 million things at once. They're only doing one task. Like,
often it's only 2 roles away. So for most MSPs, I will say this just as a bit of an insight, is that inevitably you need someone sales and client services like account management and all that sort of stuff, which is what I always did. And then you need someone that was obviously going to manage the technical team, which my brother did, but then quickly handed it over. That one got handed over a lot faster. So those are the 2 pillars of most MSPs. If you have a GM of sales and advisory, so they'll do the roadmaps and all that, and a GM of technical operations, you're out.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
really only 2 people. You don't actually need 1 million people of what I'm talking about here. So it's fascinating, just so you know. You've
So it's just
obviously got to be able to pay for them.
yeah, no, because they're what 150k, 200k Aussie. So if you're talking US, probably at least 100k as a starting point. Like they want decent amount of money, right? I'm asking a question. I haven't done this before, so I'm curious to know.
Yeah, well, they
That's about
do.
that.
They obviously do. But, let's just look at the sales one, for example. And it's something that took me a while to get my head around. So it's not like I was naturally fast at this. If a salesperson should basically bring in new business, right? Like, so if they are, 100+ K a year, then obviously just to cover their costs, because it's not about profit at the start, it's about freedom. So all
Mhm.
you need to do is get that person in that first year to sign up 10 grand a month of support deals. Well, our target's 40 grand a month after 12 months of selling. So not every month, but at the end of 12 months, we should have got 40 to 50 grand more of support deals. At our size, we need to do that. 40, right? So to me, signing up 10 is like whatever, right? Like you should be able to do it. Any MSP should be able to do that. So you do need to factor in churn a little bit, but ultimately that's where your head is at. And the other concept is so at the end of that year, if they've signed up enough support deals to cover their own wage, you're not out. Yes, you're not more
Yeah,
profitable, but you've got more time, and then you
yeah,
can kind of focus on that.
yeah.
So, but what actually happens is you do sell way more. Like and before I get into the example, when when you think of a salesperson, for example, a lot of people will look at the salary like that and go, "Fuck me, like that's a lot." But you don't need to worry about it because they're a salesperson. Because if they haven't hit any numbers by 3 to 6 months, they're gone anyway. So you're not
Hmm.
going to waste $100,000+. You're only going to spend, whatever a third of that is, so 30 grand, to try and figure it out, right? Which, if you do your recruitment properly, I always recommend salespeople from the printing industry. They're amazing because they've been dealing hardcore with SMBs,
Mm.
and they like sort of the basis of networking, like they kind of get their head around it. So they're always good because they've got good discipline and so on. But and so the example for me was that we had stalled at the 3 million revenue mark for 3 years. That we hit it the first year and then hit it the next year. I went, oh, it didn't grow that much. And then I realized, oh, we're on track to hit it again. I got to do something different, right? And anyway, when we got him on board, yes, he was signing up a lot of new clients, but no more than we ordinarily did. But it meant I had freedom. But he did a way better job of going and seeing all of our customers and talking about their roadmaps, which therefore translated to a lot more procurement sales. So
Projects. Yeah.
in that first year, we went from 3 to 4 million. And you know why? Sales efficiency. Having conversations faster than you ordinarily would have. And that's all it is. Most MSPs
Yeah.
drag out sales pipeline over a longer period of time. And if they just squeezed it up, that's actually growth. So yeah, we're
That's
actually not
interesting,
that.
eh?
Yeah.
Because us as business owners are usually ones that are doing sales. Even if we're the tech person, we're running the company, we're the salesperson, right? I could probably, all the let's call it all the 60% of the MSPs that we speak to around the world, which is that 10 to 20 staff members. Um, it's always the owner. That's the salesperson. If you're the owner and you're the salesperson, what are you doing in sales? 1 day a week, maybe 2 days maximum,
You're
because you're
resigning
all the
that
other
job and
flies.
function to a part-time job.
Yeah, because all your other time is going to putting out fires, working with your team, working with customers, doing account management. Like you're trying to do absolutely everything. It's just not possible. So I think you're right. I loved your mindset and thought process, and it obviously took a while to figure this out. Is factoring in the cost for that year two mark. So let's call it that the salesperson for the first year will earn 100K. You physically need to pay them 100K. Maybe a commission, let's call it 120K. By year two, that means the generation would already be 10K extra per month. So it's already covering their salary.
You do
But you're
have to
getting
think of it
that,
monthly like that. Yeah, that's the way to
yeah.
think about it. Because now you're net neutral, and it's like sweet. But you'll never be net neutral if they're good, because they would have sold you a lot more procurement stuff anyway. Because look, most MSPs, I challenge them to do this. If you put all your 25, 50, 100 clients in an Excel spreadsheet down one column, and then you went through each one and went, what could we possibly sell them that they need? A couple of desktops, new switch, firewall, router, project to go to Office 365, whatever. Just guesstimate it. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a 10 grand pipeline for every client. Because remember, a couple of
Mm-hmm.
desktops, a couple of grand each, there's 4. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
so it's like there's probably 10 grand there. So if you've got 50 clients, there's a $500,000 pipeline. Most
Mm-hmm.
MSPs don't think of it that way, right?
Mm.
Because they're not sales focused. And it's not about being sales focused for the sake of it. These are things customers need you to do. That's that whole
Yeah.
proactivity piece. Like they want you to help them with this stuff.
Yeah.
So effectively, if you've got a 500 grand pipeline, the
Mm.
difference between an MSP like eNerds and the smaller ones is that they don't look at it that way. And then therefore they won't go out and have those conversations to try and get the 500K. So let's say both of us have the same sales success rate. So we only sell 300 grand of that 500 grand pipeline, because obviously you never sell all of it. The difference is that we would do that 300 grand in a year, and you would do that, not you personally, but other MSPs would do that 300 grand over 2 or 3 years, because you've been
Yeah.
diddy-daddling and not gone out and seen the customers. So that's that anemic growth, because you just didn't have the conversation with them. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
just being efficient. So fascinating stuff. And
Mm.
at
I love
some
that. Love
point,
that topic.
and I do want to say this too, though, our model breeds conservatism around sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it's annuity and you kind of feel safe and you don't have this
Yeah.
pressure to be starting from zero every month. I know I'm salesy, and I fell into that trap for years where I was like, we're growing and it's like whatever. And so that's the difference, where you still at some point you've got to be entrepreneurial. So think about the example I gave. Had stalled revenue a couple of times, and I was debating hiring someone. I actually personally wasn't too concerned about the cost, because we were a wee bit bigger, and so therefore it wasn't such a big drama. I was just struggling to get my head around whether we needed to do it or not, and whether or not I kind of saw it as a waste of money, right? Because I'm like, well, I'm already doing that. But once I got my head around the
Mm.
fact that I'd resigned the sales function in the business to a part-time job, it made more sense conceptually. And then I had to actually get a little more entrepreneurial, take a little bit of risk. Like we're so risk adverse in an annuity, very consistent business model, that I was like, yes, there's no certainty on every move you make.
Yeah.
So it's a big decision to get that first salesperson. But I highly recommend, if you're over $1 million, 1.5, somewhere in that range, you probably should start looking at it, because you can just go leaps and bounds ahead of that, just purely because they're going to focus 40 hours a week on it. And that's
Yeah.
innovation in process. That's innovative thinking. It's taking a little bit of risk and being entrepreneurial. But is it that much risk when you only really end up paying 3 or 6 months, depending on how long you decide that they're not good at it? It's not even that
Yeah.
much of a risk. So fascinating,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I get this question all the time from MSPs wanting to start out, or just either just get started in the industry, or they've been in the industry for a long time, and they go, well, how did you grow your MSP to 20 plus staff? How did you do it within a couple of years? It's like, well, because I focused on sales, like literally nothing else in the business. Did we have our shit together, and did we have our service delivery and our automation and innovation? No, we didn't. But we're able to grow because we focused. You put the focus on it, right? One thing, and this is obviously I'm not focused on it now, and we're back down to 9 staff again now, and it's our R&D hub for Tribute. Um, But one thing that we always found was we won business because our sales process was slick. The presentation, the proposal, the process we go through, it's always it just was slick. And obviously, this is before tools like the data e-commerce tool now. I think should help a lot of MSPs. There's probably a few others out there, but like that didn't exist, right? So we had to be creative and think of our toes. And honestly, I just did it because I didn't. I was sick of just repeating myself 20 million times a day. So I was like, I have to automate this process. It's got to be easier. But that won every customer over. Like I would have a 90% success rate compared to when we're going up against multiple other MSPs because I had my proposals. Like I replied to the customer within a couple of hours. I was able to have a meeting with them within the same day or next day. Like it would go, well, how come you chose us? I always ask the question, why did you choose us over another company? Well, I emailed our existing IT company. I wanted to migrate to 365. I asked them 3 weeks ago. I still haven't heard from them.
Yeah.
Like,
being slick in your sales presentation, it doesn't get spoken enough. I've actually been banging on about this for quite a few years because I realize that most people don't spend time on the actual proposal. So most of the sales coaching is around lead generation, but not conversion. And in fact, I think it is still hard, whichever way you do it, to get lots of leads. It's why most MSPs are small. It's not that bloody easy to just get 50 people keen to swap IT providers. And it's good that it's that way because that's why we don't have high churn. But it does make it a bit trickier. So therefore, conversion is super important, and working on your sales presentation, how you articulate, what is your playbook? Do you call them back straight away? What questions do you ask over the phone? What do you do to close the meeting? What's your call to action? How do you do your pricing and packaging? But how do you talk to them? Like we don't talk. Most MSPs literally rock up and go, "This is what we do. This is the price."
mm-hmm,
Whereas we always talk about the Simon Sinek concept of sell the
mm-hmm,
why first, then the how,
mm-hmm.
and the what's like whatever. Like they get the gist. You do all of that stuff. It's actually not beside the point, right? So I completely agree with what you're saying, and it doesn't get that definitely doesn't get spoken about enough. And I think that's the bit where a lot of MSPs really struggle to do the conversion. Like they just do a real horrible job of presenting. And my example that I posted last year in like the Tech Tribe was that we won a $3,000 a month deal, and I mean, I'd like to say it was our presentation style, and I'm sure it made them sign on the dotted line very quickly. But they went to market to 10 MSPs in Sydney, 10. And after we'd already won the deal, he goes, "Look, to be honest, I went to 10, and one called me back same day, which is you, within an hour or whatever. One emailed back with some questions the next day, and the other 8 never got back to me. But the second one
Yeah,
never even bothered to go in. So we pretty much won it by default. So it's
yeah,
not a great example on our on conversion in that sense. But because our proposal is awesome, and because it gave them confidence, they didn't feel like they needed to go to market to anyone else to
mm-hmm,
get options, and you win the deal by default to some degree. So, and that's
yeah,
that kind of
absolutely.
non-sales mindset problem that's out there. But I'll say it again. These are all examples of innovation. It doesn't have to be tech. It can just be a process. A sales process and innovating around that it's mission critical. Like it's crazy. Like we actually have a VCIO module in our platform now, and it's taken our innovation, brought it to the table, which is when you present recommendations, you've got to do it using a good, better, best format so that the customer understands, oh, okay, so I could just extend the warranty, or I could go to the cloud, or I could get a new server. Okay, which one? You recommend that? All right, what do I want to do? Rather than just giving them a yes or no proposition. It's like, it's a budget of this. It's like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I don't know what I want to do. Like, you tell me what I should do. So, yeah. Anyway, I digress. But
So,
fascinating
so
debate.
in Envirosoft, there's a module that is a VCIO, or is it usually what eNodes?
In Envirosoft, sorry, yeah. So we
Okay,
brought
so
the
so
eNodes
this is a
IP.
sales perspective. No, no, I'm keen to dive into this. You're saying there's a VCIO module in your platform that allows MSPs to make the sales process a lot smoother.
Correct. So we basically most. Here's the. I'll try and do the 2-minute backstory on it. Is that we obviously realized, being a client portal, that should we do VCIO? Well, yeah, we should, because it is something that you're supposed to present to a customer. So it makes logical sense. It's in a client portal, so therefore, okay, let's add that to our suite of functionality. And um, and if we're going to do it, let's do it the way that Enos does it, because I looked at the way the market does it, and here's what I observed, and I shake my head perpetually at it. I personally think all the VCO tools out there are only focused on one half of the job. That half of the job, I'm sure they're doing a great job of it, but they've literally missed half the job. So on that basis, I would actually say they're all failing at helping you. And I have now empirical evidence to back up what I'm saying, because what a customer wants to know is, what did you find was wrong and what do you recommend? And what most of these VCO tools do is they do a very detailed job of explaining all the things they found. So it's all about the audit and showing your acumen around the audit. Huge reports explaining this that customers can't possibly digest. They're non-technical. Why would they care? They're being a lawyer. So it's a bit of a waste of energy, but they're good at it, and they're getting through all that info. But then when it comes time to actually present recommendations, I think 100% of these VCO tools, because I haven't seen any that don't do this, is they basically just have a budget line item. So if you're talking about UPS, they'll say budget $2,000, and that's the extent of it. That's the extent of what they talk about in terms of recommendations and how to get a customer to make a decision. So the net effect of when you do that is that the customer says, well, okay, is it $2,000? Like, are you going to do a quote, or are there like varying UPS levels? Do we need, like, what brands are there? Can we like look at APC versus Eaton? Like, which one, right? A budget item does not help a customer make a buying decision. It just doesn't. And the empirical evidence that I'm talking about is, now that this is a relatively new functionality in our platform, is that I'm right, because what most of these tools, by the nature of their design, is doing is forcing a customer to chase you down for a quote. And then you end up quoting them. So you now have one meeting to talk about your like your roadmap, your advisory, your audit. And then you end up having to have a second meeting because you didn't present it in a way that they could buy it. Now, even if you'd rocked up with a quote, it's pretty much yes or no. Are you in or you're out? It's pretty hard for a customer to get a $20,000 quote and go, oh, I don't know, let me think about it. I bet you $1 million anyone watching this is like, yeah. Clients always do that. Of course they're going to do that. Nobody wants to spend $20,000. They need to kind of be led to water like, a horse. So what we built was a whole module called a solution builder 10 years ago. We'd been doing it in a Word document so that the customer could see, oh, here we go, lead the dog to water, so that the customer you could sort of show them the good, better, best options. What it does is that it doesn't play your hand on price. It shows you're actually on their side, actually shows your technical acumen, because it shows you've got different options they can consider. And then they end up building a solution themselves based on what you've presented. And at the end, you go, great, well, okay, you could have spent 10, 20 or 40 grand. You've selected, say, 22 grand. I'm now going to go away and do a quote on that. This is all on one page in our awesome portal. I'm going to do a quote on that. What's standing in the way of going ahead? So in the one meeting, you've actually got them to make a buying decision pretty much, right? This is not a quoting tool. These prices are like 90% accurate. And then boom, you go and do the quote. And we've found that that's how you speed up the sales cycle. So it's all very well to get your 500 grand pipeline that I was talking about. And it's all very well to go out there and be efficient with the presentation, but you also need to at least get them G'd up so they're kind of almost there at making that buying decision. Because what most MSPs are experiencing is presentation, another meeting to do quote, and then delay on decision, because basically they've just been presenting a yes or no proposition. Fascinating stuff. I could go on about that forever.
Yeah.
But,
no, I think it's no, absolutely makes sense. And I think the key point around everything you just discussed around what your platform's offering is amazing from that perspective. But also think the missed conversation is around the customer and the time. They're booking in an hour meeting, typically an hour meeting, to sit down with you, and they've got that dedicated hour. And by the end of that meeting, they don't want to think about it again. So I think if you're being able to deliver everything that they can then discuss in that meeting, tick off, sign, and move on, that's what the business owner wants.
I think that's a better way of explaining it. And maybe you should have explained our platform in the 30 seconds that you just did it. But that is the gist of it. Is like, you've only got their mind share for a short period of time. And if as soon as it has to be spread over a few meetings, their interest level wanes, and therefore your ability and your conversion percentage will wane accordingly. Like it is what it is.
Because then there's like back and forth, and 3 weeks later, they still don't have time to meet with you again. You're like, It's like, no, if I got signed off on the spot, then we don't have to meet again. We're done. I'll let you know once we deliver it. It's a
Or even
no-brainer.
because they don't often sign off on the spot, but they have fundamentally made a buying decision because they are the ones that you go through line by line, and they just pick the one they want. So they're emotionally invested, and they've literally picked it themselves. You've just been the facilitator of the conversation, whereas the alternative approach is, here's my quote. Do you want it? And so where's the engagement been? They're like, well, I guess, like, so, it's
or you have that visa. I mean, you do a roadmap, and then cool. I think we need this. All right, let me go back to my team. Let me dive into this. Let me put a bit of a quote together. I'll send you a quote, and then you can sign off on it. And then it's like crickets. Typically, it's like you got to chase them and follow up and book another meeting. Yeah, 100% agree. The other key point around using both our platforms from a sales perspective is the Teams integration. So you've got a team. You're just going live with your Teams integration for your entire portal. We've also got a Teams integration for the customer that can submit tickets, they can follow up on the engineers, everything can be done via Microsoft Teams. Now, it's definitely not a fully fledged portal like yours. Yours is epically amazing compared to our platform. But what we've seen from the customer-facing Teams integration from an MSP standpoint, they use it in their sales process. Hey, would you love to never have to email us again? Absolutely. Well, guess what? As we're selling our MSP service to you, you can use our customer-focused Teams module, and you can submit tickets. You can follow up. If your tickets are not being responded to quick enough, you can literally hit the follow-up button, and it will chase our engineers to get back to you quicker. It's a no-brainer in a sales conversation. And I think that's where we aren't doing it enough, and I'm not sure if you're going down this direction, but I think we could use those conversations and go, well, you should, as an MSP, buy our tool just to improve your sales process. It does it for you.
Look, in all honesty, yeah, I mean, we're probably undercharging it. Most of the VCO tools, for example, charge the same amount as our entire platform. And I just shake my head and go, wow, like, we're delivering 15x more, plus our VCO is better anyway. And so, yeah, it's interesting. And the ROI on that is, mate, you sell an extra $100,000 in the year at whatever margin that is, like,
pays for itself. Yeah.
Whatever, it's free. So, yeah.
This has been absolutely amazing, man. I think we could literally go on for hours. It's been an hour and a half, which is pretty epic.
We probably should, let these people go if anyone stayed the journey with us.
I appreciate this, man. I think we'll have to kick off this again. Maybe we'll book this in for early next year as our platforms develop, as we keep talking to MSPs all around the world. And if you haven't already realized, we're still figuring out what we're doing. We're still figuring out what innovation, automation, and customer experience we can offer to the MSP industry. We want to know. We literally want to know what you guys want. We want to hear from you. We want to understand what your customers are saying, what your techs are saying, what you'd love to see from an innovation and customer experience standpoint. At the end of the day, what our job is to deliver an amazing tool set, an amazing opportunity, amazing operational customer service experience to your customer. For the next 3 to 5 years, we're going on this massive innovation journey, and that's why Jamie and I have connected so well over the last, 6-8 months. It's only been a very short period of time. We've known each other in the industry for a long time, but it's only been a very short period of time this relationship's been building. Because we're both doing it. We're both in the grind, and we're both trying to solve a really well-needed problem in the industry.
That's a good point. Both of our teams are spending a lot of time and effort of their lives to make your MSPs more awesome and to deliver superior experiences and superior productivity. Like, there's a lot of time being spent by some really special people to make all of this happen, and that can't be understated enough in the sense of the passion that teams put in place that believe in a problem and really want to help others solve that. So the output of that is obviously the tools that you get, but probably worth that massive tip of the hat to those teams just slogging away to kind of improve and deliver awesomeness. So yeah, good point.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll leave you with that. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll keep you posted on the next one. I would love to get your comments, feedback, everything based on these hot topics of conversation. Appreciate it. Cheers.
See you guys.